don't show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy, ha ha. It's a 6-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Oh, hello, everybody. Good evening.
You got a hat on.
Hey, yeah, I switched it up on you. You saw that? Nobody saw that except you guys.
I saw that we were here for the pre-show party here.
The pre-show party was
we were, yeah. Ironically, we were on time and started 10 minutes late because we were debating the transfer portal.
Our best stuff comes during the pre-show. All the rest is just
we all showed up on time for once, and then show was late anyway. But
yeah, we showed up. I did. I showed up like at.
You were here first. I came in and Jazz was already here. I'm like, damn.
Good job, Jazz.
It was the first time we were all there in the pre-show.
I know, this is ridiculous. It's my fault. I got crazy, and Pete Nakos, whatever, just predicted Oklahoma to land John Mateer. So there goes our next quarterback. Anyways, we're going 4-8 next year. We're screwed. That's it. End of conversation. A lot to get to tonight.
Maybe we could you break, we'll fix it though,
I don't even want to do it.
You gotta do it, man.
Nothing to do with you break, we'll fix. Love you guys, but
yeah, they will fix the tires. Maybe they can fix the roster.
If they could, that would be unbelievable. But we'll see what happens. Have you ever run over a pothole so hard your steering wheel shakes? Constantly losing air in your tires that you need to keep adding air? Chances are there's an issue with your wheels, and U Brake Will Fix is your solution. U Brake Will Fix is Miami's premier wheel repair and restoration company. With over 20 years of experience and located in North Miami, U Brake Will Fix offers quick repairs for damaged wheels, and in most cases can offer free loaner wheels to keep you on the road while they repair your damaged wheels. So if your wheels are looking weathered and it's time to freshen up your car, don't replace your wheels, refinish them. Their in-house wheel refinishing solutions, such as powder coating, machining, and polishing, will give your car the light new look it deserves. So contact Mark and staff at 305-748-0112 or on all social media outlets at U Brake Will Fix. That's the letter U, Brake Wheel Fix, and mention 5 reasons you'll get 5% off your next repair. Located at 1848 Northeast 143rd Street in North Miami, U Brake Wheel Fix Powder Coating and Wheel Repair. That's 305-748-0112. Check them out. Switched it up a little bit today,
Yeah, it did great.
Add a little flavor to it. Add a little.
Prepare for that Pop-Tarts Bowl. You gotta get
man. I got to, right? Speaking of Pop-Tarts Bowl, the trophy came, right? They show what the trophy looks like. It actually has a toaster.
Yeah, they've upgraded it.
On the trophy.
Hey, during the game, they have the world's largest toaster. I saw it last year, and they put little Pop-Tarts through them, and they warm up and everything.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, but now the upgrade, so they do that on the field too in the trophy celebration. But the upgrade this year is the trophy itself is a functioning toaster.
It really is.
It'll hold 2 Pop-Tarts. You can put them in there. It goes into the football, and it'll pop them out when they're ready.
How nice.
I mean, who needs the playoffs when you got the Pop-Tarts Bowl? Honestly, and right.
You know what? I will take solace in the fact that half of the playoff teams in the first round will be done playing a week before we are.
That's right.
So
that's right.
So you know what? Still better. Yeah, but screw that. We can want it anyway.
You know what? They're flawed anyways. As our AD Dan Radakovich probably wants to shout from a mountaintop every single day. And I know you've got a little information on that, Vish. I read the article briefly, but it's been a crazy day. What does it really say? What's going on with that and Radakovich?
Well, yeah, he was at the Heisman ceremony. Obviously, we're not going to talk about that voting. What a catastrophe! The hell. Anyway, I'm mad about that. But but he did talk about
how much everybody really hates the Miami Hurricanes.
I mean, it is ridiculous, and I'm sure Blue remembers this, Jazz, you might, but everyone's talking about this is the first time that we had a Heisman finalist since 2002.
Yeah, of course.
When obviously defending champions, 34-game winning streak. I don't think most people remember Dorsey and McGahee finished 4th and 5th in the Heisman voting that year. That's what 34 wins in a row gets you, 4th and 5th. Carson Palmer won it on a 9-3 USC team. And then Brad Banks, Iowa's quarterback, didn't even win the Big Ten. Finished second. This is a decades-long problem. So it's not surprising. There's zero justification for Dylan Gabriel being in front of Cam Ward. And for people saying, well, he's the quarterback of the number 1 team, Jaden Daniels won the Heisman last year on a 9-3 team. Won it.
Yeah.
It's just every year they're going to keep, like you said, move the goalposts around to make sure it is what it is. We have to outperform everyone else and basically leave no doubt so they can figure out a way to do it. They'll do it. You saw ESPN drop them from the conversation in the middle of the year and kind of pretended like he didn't exist, and that certainly hurt his voting as well. So, but anyway, Radakovich was there, and so he did some interviews, and yeah, I think he talked a lot about what we kind of all are thinking, which is there's no standards. There's no no one knows exactly what they're basing their rankings on, and he definitely took issue with a lot of what we did too, which is Ward Manuel coming out and saying the rankings were locked in. He's like, that doesn't make sense, which everyone said at the time. If you're using things like who their opponents played and whether their opponents are ranked and all that stuff, and those teams are still playing and those rankings are still changing, then why wouldn't that be reflected in the other rankings? He said maybe they shouldn't do a ranking until they shouldn't do a ranking the last week of the season and wait until, because otherwise it just basically deflates the whole last weekend, because everyone if they're going to release rankings and say they're locked in, it kind of just ruins the whole, because they're not moving teams around.
Who cares, right? Who wants to watch?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about expanding too, which convenient for us this year because obviously they expanded, we would have been in it. But I do worry that without some kind of consistent standards on how they're determining these teams, it's just going to become the SEC Invitational, because they're going to start cramming in mediocre SEC teams. They're not going to if this taught us anything, it's that there's no standard for which they won't shove an SEC team in there if they can. I mean, the fact that SMU had to even debate this after going 11-1 and losing on a 58-yard field goal in the conference championship game on the last play, they're praying that Alabama with 9-3 with 2 losses to 6-6 teams doesn't jump them. It's just crazy. So, I mean, until they address that, and there are some things even that Greg Sankey has talked about in terms of which are interesting in terms of expanding the playoffs and giving a set number of bids.
Right.
So, and because I think now they're talking about a certain number of automatic bids. I would say, because they were talking about 3 for the SEC and Big Ten, 2 for the ACC, and then still having a bunch of at-large bids. For me, I think you just maybe you give each conference an extra bid, 4s and 3s, and then you lock it in, because it's still going to be the same BS. They're still going to be arguing, well, we're 8-4, but we play in the SEC and that 10-2 in the Big 12. It's just like it's worthless because you're actually comparing apples to oranges. So if you lock in the number of bids per league and say this is all you're getting, it'll actually make the league play better because they'll really want their better teams against. Because what these conferences, and they all did it, the ACC did it too. We're going to a single division. We're going to make sure we play each other as little as possible to inflate our records. And they all did it, and that's why there's all this weird stuff like Indiana didn't play anyone, and they're 11-1. It's because they built the conference that way on purpose.
Right.
So if you get rid of at-large bids, because they were pointing out, if you're doing, let's say you're a 3-bid league, you could actually your conference championship game could have 2 games. You could have 3 versus 4 playing for that last bid too, and have 1 versus 2 because you get seeded higher and then you get a home game. And you can make it a lot more interesting and more competitive. But right now, everyone's afraid to lose. So you don't want to play those games. Because, if what happened to SMU could happen to anyone,
well, not only that, the other thing that's a little bit unsettling also is the way that they've done the seeding, right? So they've got Oregon playing the winner of the 8 and 9 as opposed to the 5 and 12, which if you it's all screwed up, right? So you think they'd play the winner of the lower seeded matchup potentially. And I'm just throwing out not necessarily that 5-12 matchup, but I think the seeding, they kind of screwed it up a little bit as well. Not to mention they just screwed up the seeding period. Because you're talking about a team like Georgia, who lost 2 games and they really struggled, and they're still a 2 seed, whereas another team could have maybe jumped them in that 2 seed. I mean, a lot of the seeding. I'm not saying they have to reseed everything, but I don't know. It's a bit confusing, and I think that they need to kind of work on that also.
Well, yeah, because they have the conference champions are automatically the top 4, so that throws some stuff off. But they don't know how to seed anything anyway. They're just pulling out their ass, and I think that's the through line of all of the commissioner's comments and all of the AD's comments, including Radakovich, are just no one knows what they're looking at. No one knows what they're deciding on. They're making shit up as they go along, and it's impossible to plan for. And that's the system they all created, though.
Yep.
So Radakovich did talk about maybe going back to divisions. They need to discuss that. I mean, for the ACC, it would probably make sense if they're going to not let them get more than 2 teams ever, which is what appears to be the case. It took this to get the second team in, that it would make sense to have divisions, something like the SEC, where you can, I don't know, lose to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma and still claim you're in. Maybe probably doesn't make sense to go divisions because you might lose an extra game, and then 8-4 might be enough. So, but I do think for team like the Big 12 as well could probably use some kind of way to boost their resumes. So you do want those, for the Big 12 and the ACC, they need their top teams playing more. SMU and Clemson played in the conference championship game. We didn't play any of them in the regular season. They didn't play each other either. That was an opportunity to boost a resume that none of the 3 teams had. Right. Again, Big 10 and SEC, you get away with that. Big 12 and ACC, you don't. So, I mean, you got to look at that. It's not fair, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
So I think he was looking at some of that too. If we had divisions, it would be cleaner in terms of how these things work out. The other thing you could always do, and I saw someone suggest this on Twitter, is things instead of whoever wins the regular season, the conference is just the conference champion. They get the automatic bid. Have the second and third place teams play the conference championship game because you can get an extra win that way and boost their resume without risking your champion getting thrown out, so that Alabama can go in there. So I mean, again, you have to react to the way they treated it. I think even though Alabama ended up missing out barely, they put a marker in the ground there. You got to be 2 games in front of them to be in front of them. 1 game is not enough. Because SMU was 1.5, and they hung on by that. So, I mean, that's black and white. And it's ridiculous, too, because it's very hard to have that bad of a season for Alabama. It's but Monty Jones summed this up and everyone was arguing about it. He's I'm not arguing about someone that lost to Vanderbilt. What are we talking about here? They lost to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They have 3 losses and what was to Vanderbilt? We're debating this? They shouldn't even be in the top 20. Get them the hell out of here. What are we doing?
Never. That'll never happen.
I know, but that's the point. Like, if that's what it took, because it wasn't just that they went. It's like they went 9-3, like lost in overtime, and they got killed by Oklahoma, who's terrible. They lost to Vanderbilt. That was not enough. It took Clemson stealing a bid to keep them out. So, I mean, the standard's been set whether it materialized or not. Like, we know max of one loss might have to go undefeated. Right? We know that. That's been made clear. So, you have a 2-game gap you got to make up.
Right. Real quick, shout out to everybody in the chat. Terrence, Ross, OG, Rock and Rant, Ian Coleman. We'll get to some of this stuff, guys.
Yeah, we got a lot of portal stuff going on. So,
yeah. Before we get to the portal stuff from all these other teams that are apparently getting a bunch of commits and we're freaking out over here, I would probably say that give it time, right? Give it time. Look, before we even get to that, the portal, as I mentioned, the portal stuff, we've got a game to play in a couple of weeks, and Cam Ward is still your quarterback for another week. Another 2 weeks, which is still exciting, which still gives them an opportunity and a possibility of showing out. So
yeah, we haven't won 11 games since 2003. So there's things you can do in that bowl game that do matter.
Absolutely. Shout out to the state champions in the state of Florida, American Heritage. Teddy Bridgewater getting his first state title, his first year head coach at Northwestern, destroying Reigns. Was it 41?
Terrible Reigns team.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, this is I slept all day yesterday. 7 games in 4 days. Just about wore me out.
Blue, you got to see our future quarterback play a couple nights ago in Malachi Tony.
Against the other future quarterback, Darian Coleman. And let me tell you something, it was the best by far game. I mean, it was really back and forth. Malachi's a freak. Everybody, and somebody really said, they go, if you didn't know, you think that Malachi was the quarterback that you were recruiting.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, Byron
He
Lewis.
Looked good, right? Like he looked like a quarterback. He didn't look like some guy that was just playing because they needed him to. He looked
the last 3 games, he got them to the state finals. I mean,
and he won it.
And Darian Coleman probably has to learn a little bit about throwing the ball, but he could run. Probably as best as I've ever seen a Miami prospect as a quarterback run.
Yeah.
Went over 100 yards, but that by far was the best game. I just think that it shows you how good South Florida is when you're running the clock on undefeated teams. And, look at St. Thomas. I mean, they stepped up in a major way and beat Lakeland, who had a 19-game winning streak.
They destroyed them, too. They kicked their butt.
34-0. I mean, and then as you mentioned, Jacksonville Reigns, who was undefeated at 13-0, and to come down here and get just crushed like that. These teams – that's the thing about South Florida. I mean, you look at Chaminade, who, in Prep Red Zone's final poll tomorrow, they will be crowned as the number 1 team in the state for the 3rd straight year. And think about this. Any team that would start off 0-2. Now, okay, you lose to St. John Bosco, who finished up at 14-2 and top 6. But you lost to Ely. And at that point, you were 0-2. And if someone said, hey, you know what, by the end of the year, they'll run off 13 straight wins. They'll win the state title. They'll play 13 state teams who played or participated in the state playoffs, which is crazy to have out of their 15 opponents, to have 13 opponents that actually played in the state championship. 2 were state champions in St. Thomas and American Heritage. Yep. And I'll tell you what, they'll down the stretch. They amazing. I mean, and so did Northwestern, but Northwestern's teams that they played were not great. But I'm not going to take anything away because they did a great job, and Teddy Bridgewater, and it was a great crowd. Kudos to the people who paid. The 3,000 who jumped the fence, not so much, and gave South Florida a black eye when you do that. that just shows a bunch of non-class, that you can't just support your own teams. But they had 12,000 for the final game.
Wow.
And everybody expected it because Northwestern draws. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they are the only community team in South Florida other than Dillard that are community-based schools. I mean, Central, all Northwest, Norland, all those, they're not community-based schools. Chaminade, congratulations. Also, West Boca Raton. They finished the season undefeated. Dylan Potts. And this is without probably the best running back in the state for 2026 and Javion Mallory. He didn't play the last 3 games of the season, or 4 games. They came up and beat a really good Kissimmee Osceola team with former University of Miami commit Elijah Melendez, who actually did a pretty good job. I was really surprised. I thought he was okay, but he was better than okay. And then the 5A state championship, you had St. Thomas, and just something about them in state playoffs. That was, and to comprehend, and people have to understand, this is not Idaho. This is not North Dakota. This is Florida. You win 6 consecutive state titles in Florida, please. And
they are the pinnacle of high school football in Florida, I think, without a doubt.
Yeah,
they have to.
And not only that, Jazz, I mean, you take a look at Chaminade Madonna appearing in their 9th consecutive state championship game, winning 6 out of the last 7. And these teams, if you look, the common denominator in all these teams this year from South Florida is they played schedules.
Right.
From the beginning when St. Thomas played Bishop Gorman and they played Chaminade and they played American Heritage and they played Columbus and, all these teams like Heritage, playing Milton, who, by the way, tomorrow, Wednesday night is going for state title in Georgia for the 2nd straight year with Luke Nickel. It was a great week of football at FIU. I mean, it started Wednesday night and went 2 a day right to Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But it wears you out to see that much football. It really does. I just think if you sat in the stands and watched it, but we were standing and, watching all the players. But, it's until you and the fans of South Florida, if you didn't go this year, you got 2 more years. They're going to be playing it at FIU. And, they rolled out the red carpet, got a chance to see Willie Simmons, their new head coach. That was on hand and got a chance, to see him. And also Jonnu Smith, who's a starting tight end for Miami Dolphins, who was an FIU graduate. He came down and saw the Pouncey brothers. And, oh, my gosh, I remember when the Pouncey brothers used to be like 310. Now they're like 110. I mean, they're thin. But they came down. They were honorary captains for the Lakeland game where they went. And, it was a really good time, and you got to salute the teams, even from, as far away as Tallahassee area, Gadsden County came 520 miles. That's where you live, DJ. You go 520 miles, you'd be past New York. So, so it was a great time. Saw a lot of prospects all over the place, kids. And I thought the most impressive prospect, and I've said it from the beginning. I thought that, I know Miami got Gerard Pringle, and he's really good, but Byron Lewis is the best running back in the state. I mean, he's amazing. I mean, what else can you say? He just ran for over 200 yards and against a really good football team in Jones. And there's my report.
You know what? The hell with Byron Lewis, okay? It's Gerard.
I hear you. Well, there's always the portal down the road.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, don't burn bridges, Jazz. Don't burn any bridges.
Yeah,
that's right.
You never know when they'll be coming back.
You can't do that anymore.
But maybe next year when he's not playing in that god awful school.
They got 4 freshmen in the backfield right now.
Yeah, get out of here, those stupid guys.
Oh well, and then FSU got their man Castellanos, who I liked, but then when I found out he quit on his team, then I didn't like him so much.
Well, let's talk about it. It was a good segue what you said about, there's a transfer portal. There's always the portal next year. Well, there's the portal this year. And this year, the portal so far,
Hey, should we do Underdog before because the portal segment I think is going to go?
Yes, but before we even get to Underdog, fans, relax. Go ahead.
Yeah, if they're not suiting up for the bowl game, it doesn't need to be ASAP.
Yeah, just relax. The house is not burning down. Calm down. Go ahead, Vish.
That bouncing ball can only mean one thing. It's time to hoop. And with Underdog Fantasy, you can play higher or lower on all your favorite players, like Miami's own Tim Hardaway Jr. I love Underdog's Win Now feature, which lets you cash out whenever you want. So join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog. And with their Pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Download the app today and use code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast instantly. That's UnderdogFantasy.com and the offer code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast. That is FIVEREASONS. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY.
Nice. Let's talk about it for a second here, guys. Just kind of getting into the transfer portal. Let's focus on Miami first. We've got, I believe it's 8 players now that have entered the portal for the Hurricanes. Probably the biggest, I guess you could say the biggest surprise and the biggest news for the Hurricanes is Isaiah Horton entering the portal. There's been rumblings already that Alabama is their number one suitor, and they are pushing all the chips for Zay Horton. Look, he deserves it, right? He's probably going to be one of the top wide receivers in the country next year, whether he's here or somewhere else. Had a solid season, but still has some growth left, right? You can still see that there's still some things that he could kind of improve upon, and I think having the mentor like Kevin Beard here and his development has been crucial. You see how much he's grown in the last 2 years or so. I think that you're a little bit disappointed about it, right? Knowing what he's going to get himself into next year, being wide receiver 1 here potentially. I think that him leaving is probably the one that most of us are disappointed disappointed about. DJ, I want to start off with you because the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. And in this instance, Isaiah Horton probably are as I mentioned again, our most talented wide receiver decides to enter the portal. What does that say to you about what the Canes are potentially doing in the transfer portal? Or is this a concerning move by Zay Horton to see him potentially leave?
I don't think it's a concerning move. I think it's a question of him wanting to elevate his status at a program, like you mentioned, for example, Alabama. If he has that opportunity, as much as it sucks, I can't fault him for, doing what he sees fit. And I wish he would stay with the program because I thought he had an extremely strong year. We talked about, top offense in the country, this, that, and I always thought he had potential. And I think he finally really unlocked it consistently this year. And so to see him enter the transfer portal is disappointing, but if he views that this is the right step for him to go to a new program and maybe further elevate his game, then I can't blame him.
Yeah, I totally get that side.
Let's be real too. We're not exactly. We were looking to upgrade the position.
Yeah.
Sure.
We have a kid on campus right now who's a better prospect, right?
Eric
we did.
Eric Rivers, excuse me.
No,
he's talking about JoJo. right?
Okay, well,
No, there's JoJo, but there's also, I mean, we're in the portal right now. Like Singleton,
Rivers is coming too this week. I think.
Singleton is on campus. CJ Daniels is on campus. We're in Concepcion's top 5. Like, we're sitting here recruiting receivers like no one's business. And I can get Alabama comes knocking. Like, we weren't standing pat on this either.
Yeah, but regardless of what they have, are still going to go after a lot of.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But my point is this: from his perspective, you know, if we actually thought he was, I mean, this is throwing a name out there. It's in the NFL Hall of Fame. We thought he was Andre Johnson. We're probably not as aggressive. We just make sure he's staying here. But I mean, I think we're thinking we can probably do better. Whether or not that's right or not, you don't know, right? Some of these transfers work out, some of them don't. We've actually had a lot of success with transfer receivers coming in, more so than most schools. I mean, we all thought Colby Young was going to be a big loss, and he went to Georgia and obviously had off the field issues too. But even before that, he wasn't really doing anything there.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean Zahorn, like, I didn't expect him to be in the portal this morning when I woke up. Like, this is not a good thing. But, you know, this is the nature of the business. We're in it for several receivers for a reason. We probably had an inkling he was, you know, looking around. I'm sure we tried to get him not to enter the portal and stay.
I'm sure we did. We did.
Yeah, and then, but if he wants to leave, I mean, we were already obviously planning on bringing in other kids.
We all know how Mario operates in the portal, right? Like, he's not going to overpay for too many guys.
Right, and we're definitely heavily, I mean, I would say we probably have been linked targeting more receivers than any other position so far, which I mean, I think part of that was obviously you're losing X, you're losing Jacoby, you might lose Sam Brown as well. Right. But also I'm sure they kind of had an idea that Horton was waffling a little bit. That's like you said, that's the nature of the business. You can't use the portal to fill your team and then like not expect some kids to leave.
I mean, if you see the writing on the wall, you got to go.
I mean, there are kids hitting the portal off of playoff teams. Like, I mean,
the backup quarterback for Penn State hit the portal.
So did SMU's. I mean, this is
Drew Adler's coming back, so I think
so did Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State. Yeah, I mean, this is the
guys. Devin Brown and now Aaron Nolan.
Yeah, but this is the nature of the business, right? And the calendar's aligning such that they got to do it now.
Yep. Well, let's talk about some of these guys that obviously we've been hearing that have been hitting the portal that are on Miami's radar. You mentioned a couple of them already, Vish, Blue DJ. Eric Rivers, the standout wide receiver from FIU. CJ Daniels, another stud wide receiver from LSU. Eric Singleton, who's another guy that, he's quote-unquote the number one transfer portal
Georgia Tech
target. Obviously, the wide receiver from Georgia Tech, over there, who is probably making the right move for his career, considering Haynes King doesn't throw the ball that much. So, he's probably have to go somewhere so we can get some more targets. I think Kevin Concepcion, I heard somewhere where we are in his top 5, but we're not.
Yeah, he made like a top 6. He hasn't visited yet. I'm skeptical on that at this point. We were in there.
A lot of people are talking about him switching to running back. Has got that's like a Brashard Smith style guy. So it'd be interesting to see what they do.
Well, we're not the school for that. He ain't gonna get the carries.
Definitely not. Speaking of running back, we're still waiting to see if Damian Martinez even declares to the draft, right? Because there's a chance that he comes back. And now you're talking about if you don't have the best running back room in the country, then I don't know what to tell you, ESPN and every other stupid ass entity out there that likes to vote against Miami for everything. But you're talking about, being unstoppable at that position. You're still going to have to fill the offensive line a little bit, especially at center and maybe even at guard or tackle. Although I think the Kings have done a pretty good job of developing Markel Bell a little bit, and some of the other guys that are coming in that are younger. I think they've done a pretty good job of developing those guys. But Ralph, I kind of wanted to let me see Mario's comment. I mean, I guess now's not the time to talk about that. So
it was funny.
Yeah, but
it was funny.
CJ Daniels could make up for Horton. Look, CJ Daniels apparently canceled the rest of his visits after our visit, right? So that's a top prospect right there, a guy that could come in and immediately be wide receiver 1 status here as well. So you've got a lot of opportunities out there. Give me one guy, each of you, that you think from the wide receiver position that let's say that Miami's going to take at wide receiver? We'll start with you, Blue. Who do you think is the guy there that, if you looked at the guys that we mentioned now so far, who's the guy?
I like the Concepcion kid. Trying to think who.
Well, we mentioned Rivers, Singleton, CJ.
Yeah,
Jones.
no, Singleton, elite. Well, I can say that because he's on campus, but that he's a player.
Yeah.
It's so tough to say. I mean, because like Vish said, you never know. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. But I guess Singleton would be good. He fit the style of offense. But we don't even know what the style of offense if you get another quarterback in there.
Yeah. Actually,
it all depends. I mean, because the offense, as long as your coordinator stays there, is going to be basically the same run pass.
Right.
So
quarterbacks, Offenbarger, someone mentioned there, committed to North Texas. So
he went to North Texas.
Oh,
that's a good offense. I think he's going to put up some numbers there.
Yeah,
big time numbers at North Texas. We were at one point we were looking at that offensive coordinator, I think, or the head coach there to come to be the offensive coordinator here. So I know North Texas has a pretty good offense. So good for him. Good for him going to a place where he can put up some numbers and maybe get get some draft stock there. We won't even talk about the other wide receivers. Instead, let's kind of.
There are. So, I mean, for us to do a sky is falling bit, you have to assume that we don't get anyone in the portal, which is not realistic. I'm sure we'll get someone.
Yeah.
If we don't know the exact person.
Oh, they're gonna get.
But you got to assume Sam Brown goes pro, and you got to assume that guys we
or he goes in the portal again. Or he goes in the portal.
I would doubt that because he'll get his reps here. I think if his whole thing is to showcase for the pros, this is the best place for him to get.
And maybe Horton leaving might, signal that he'd probably say, you know what, I'll get a lot more catches this year.
Yeah, right. And then also,
he's more familiar with the offense than anybody. So.
Yeah, and then we also, we do have young players that we are high on. Like if we're gonna assume that JoJo Trader can't play, I'm not there. So I mean, I'm excited to see him take the field.
I think people have high hopes for him next year.
Yeah, so that's my point.
And Nikar also.
And Nikar as well. So if you're doing the sky is falling bit, you're gonna assume all of these kids can't play too, which is like insane, really. Like that is why. I know everyone's portal hungry now. That's why high school recruiting matters too. You got to blend the two. Like we've gotten some really good kids out of high school the last few years, and we're going to start playing them.
You got a few kids in the slot position too. For right now, you got Ray, but also listen, the way that Malachi Tony's played, he's a plug and play guy. I mean, he gets in there, he will be a kick returner, and he'll get to the 30, and he won't run up somebody's back.
And he'll throw for 200 yards too somehow.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, the other thing we got, and this delves into the quarterback discussion as well, right? Look, Cam Ward is the best player in the country. We're not replacing that. So this like pie in the sky, and I know if you watch film on the Washington State kid material, and I know he's crystal ball to Oklahoma, he's much more of a runner and less of a thrower. So there's going to be changes to the offense anyway. No one's going to be Cam Ward good. Get that through your heads. I'm just like, look, I hate to inform people. We are going to have to actually play defense next year. And that's okay. Like, we're not going to win 50-40 every game. We're going to actually have to play defense. There's a better version of this team where we're worse offensively but better defensively. And that's what we're targeting, right? We're not trying to take a step back as a program. But it's unrealistic to expect some other quarterback to come in here and be Cam Ward. It's not going to happen. Therefore, the offense won't be quite as good, and that's okay. It's number 1. If it falls like number 10, you're in the game.
I think you're okay.
Right? So, I think people have assuming that the defense is as bad as it is. If the defense is as bad as it is, we're screwed. We got to fix the defense, right? I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit. We're a 10-win team that was, a huge blow lead away from making the playoffs and probably winning the ACC and being a top 4 seed, right? So we're trying to just moderately improve, and everyone's like, how do we make sure that the offense doesn't slip a little or maintains this ridiculous level they play? I get number 1 in the country. When I'm looking at the defense and I'm like, there's a lot of room for growth. That's an easy thing to push up and close that gap on. Like, we don't have to allow 40 points a game. Like, we can do better than that. And that's easier than trying to squeeze more juice out of the offense's orange.
And I also think this whole sky is falling mentality. People seem to forget how well we did in the second half of the transfer portal season last year. Like, we need to realize that there's going to be, first of all, every day, a mountain of players.
Dude, last year, you and I watched that bowl game together, and then we had a serious discussion on whether or not Jakari Brown could be the starting quarterback because Cam Ward was out of the picture.
Yeah.
He had declared pro. He was gone. We didn't have a quarterback. Like, I guess it's Jakari because Emery's arm is messed up, and he might not be ready. And all right, is this going to be the team next year?
Yeah, and look
so. I mean, yeah, like you said, that all happened after the bowl game last year.
And I mean, listen. More and more as each day passes by, and it's got nothing to do with the transfer portal. I think people forget that we beat Clemson 2 years ago with Emory Williams at quarterback. I'm going to say that we probably would have beat FSU had he not gotten injured right on that last drive.
I don't think so, not at all.
I think so, but whatever.
We had.
That's just
sorry, not to run back old stuff, but we hadn't moved the ball the entire half. I think we were in double coverage and their safety whipped on the ball and Jacoby landed on him. He's like, "Oh crap, touchdown!"
That's right, man. Sometimes you need that, right? Sometimes you need a little.
That was the only time we moved the ball the entire second half, man. We were not driving that ball 80 yards.
It was wrong. We were doing it.
He broke his arm on fourth down, barely getting the 10th yard. That thing wasn't happening.
I remember that. That was painful.
Oh god, I know. He laid it all on the line, but that just look. I mean, that Florida State defense, that team was undefeated for a reason. But to your point, we're competing with that, and Emory will be a much better quarterback 3 years on from that, right? I mean, so
I think that if we forget that we have that kid here already. So, but yeah, I think that they are going to try to go after someone in the portal and either compete with Emory or just flat out be QB1 again, and then that kind of poses a question for who's going to back him up if Emory stays or whatnot. But
you like Fernando Mendoza?
I like him. I just don't know how much better he is than Emory Williams. I think that
I don't. I know. I told you. Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to give these guys you're recruiting an opportunity, or you're not going to have them anymore.
Absolutely. So I think that if you're going to bring in a
guy
guy
from Matthew Skula, the Matthew Sluka from UNLV.
Sluka, yeah, right. That's another. Speaking of UNLV, Jalen Glover just committed over there. They running back.
I saw that.
Committed to UNLV, but look, Blue. Everybody, if you're going to bring in a guy like Fernando Mendoza or something like that, then for me, it's a no-brainer to stick with Emory Williams. You'd have to be. I'm going to throw a name out there. You have to be Quinn Ewers, right? You'd have to be a guy like that to even, have an opportunity to say, well, he's going to battle it out with Emory, or he's our QB1, right? Maybe even a John Mateer, something like that, right? Like those guys are the guys that I'm looking at that you say, okay, maybe even a Miller Moss or some of those guys that you say, well, things changed and that's why they had to leave. Or again, there's so.
You know what? Go ahead. I was going to say.
So many more players are going to come out of the portal that I'm not in a rush right now.
In this day and age, it's not always about fit. It's the money.
Right.
It is. I mean, because we know that Isaiah Horton was a fit here. He was. I mean, there's games he really took over. And so it had been somebody getting in his ear and say, hey, listen, what are you going to sit there for? We can give you this and that and play you this. That's all it is to me, because these guys are what they are. And yes. I agree with Vish. I mean, we've got the goods, I mean, those guys, they're freshmen, redshirt freshmen, but they've been around a year. They've been through it. I think that Josiah and I think Nikar, they're ready for the big time.
I think so too. Yeah, George. He signed with Louisville. You're right.
Who did?
Miller Moss signed with Louisville.
Oh yeah, I saw Miller Moss. Yeah.
But and Ian brings up a great point right now. Let's say a guy like Aaron Nolan, right, who obviously was a freshman this year. He's transferring out now. I don't know if you bring in a guy like Nolan necessarily to compete with Emory. I think that if you bring in a guy like Nolan, you say Emory's my guy, and Nolan's going to develop into that guy.
Yeah, but then you got another guy coming in too.
Definitely with Luke Nickel and Darian Coleman and those guys as well. But I think that, that's what you're going to do there if you're bringing in a guy like Nolan.
Well,
I don't think he's going to be the guy if you've got Emory Williams at quarterback.
And you gotta understand though, if you to answer this question a little bit, right? If let's say you got, and this is not happening, it's not even rumored or anything, but let's say you got someone like Ewers, he's coming here to start, and that means Emory is probably hitting the portal. If you recall, like Jakari was staying until Cam Ward came in and is like, well, I'm not playing, and he got out, right? And I think we are probably going to be riding with 3 quarterbacks: Judd Anderson, Luke Nickel, and either Emory or someone else.
Right.
Because even if we bring in someone that we say is like kind of on even par with Emory, coming out of spring ball, if Emory isn't locked into the job, he's got it. Like, obviously, if someone just transferred in, they can't transfer out. Well, I guess technically they can. We had that Iowa kid for like a week, but they're probably going to stick it out.
Did he go back to Iowa?
I forgot. I think he went somewhere
Who
else.
was it?
Like
The cornerback?
that corner we got from Iowa. I think it was 2 years ago. And
he did go back. I think.
Yeah, he went back. But so I mean, in all likelihood, if Emory doesn't come out of spring ball comfortable that he's going to start, there's a second portal window that I'm sure.
The other option is Vish, right? What Oregon did, they brought in Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore, and so now Dante Moore is the future of that team. He develops. He sits behind Dylan Gabriel. The same thing could happen at Miami if
but we have Nichols. We have Nickel there too, though, right? So
but I think Oregon had a stud 5-star or a 4-star wide quarterback that was there already too. But let's say hypothetically, right? You bring in a guy like Ewers, you're probably going to bring in. You might want to bring in a second guy, young guy like an Aaron Nolan, and now you've got a couple of young guys, and you've got Ewers, and everybody sits behind Ewers, and because chances are, like you said, Emory Williams will leave. There's a lot of moving parts to this. There's a lot of craziness that could happen. So it's tough to say what's going to happen, but I think that right now, I think the least of our worries is the quarterback position. I think you're in a pretty comfortable spot because if you put players around him and you've got Shannon Dawson's offense, I think you're still going to score points.
Right, but I think the other
is the defense.
No, that's where there's a lot of room to grow. You're not going to be better offensively than number one. But I also I agree with you, and I worry about health. But I mean, this is college football now. Like, no one has good backups anymore because they go play at other schools.
Right.
You look at Georgia, right? I mean, they brought in a true freshman, highly recruited, but that's their backup. And then when he got his helmet knocked off, they had to put Beck in with one arm to take a snap because they don't really have a third stringer. That's the number 2 team in the country. Like, I mean, that's just the reality. If you cannot hold a bunch of talented players on your roster, they'll just leave. And that's the reality. So the fact that we actually have, we have Judd Anderson, Luke Nickel on the depth chart pretty much 100% for sure.
Right.
That's better than a lot of schools are doing for their depth chart. And then, hopefully we get, a really strong starter. But you're not going to, gone are the days where you can just look up and down and see, like, you have one player in each class that's, like, able to play. That's just not happening anymore. Because
by the way, Ralph, he doesn't have the no contact option. I think that was removed, but I don't think it matters either way. Like you said, I don't think Mario's going to match that anyways. I think Mario.
And I don't know. I think a lot of it also depends on what Dawson wants to do. This is like, I'd love to have Mateer here. Again, he's a totally different. He ran for almost 900 yards this year. Like, it's a totally different style of play. Are we gonna really? We're gonna turn into like.
He can sling.
Oh no, he can throw, but he's a legitimate. Like, I know Cam scrambled sometimes, but this is a kid that you're gonna design. If you want to actually make him worth $3 million, you got to run him a lot too. It's a totally different style of offense that Dawson hasn't run here. Doesn't mean he can't, but that conversation needs to happen too. Like, are we even going to use his entire skill set? Because we haven't had a designed run like since De'Aaron King.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's not our offense. And so not that Dawson can't.
Emory Williams' skill set plays here right now.
Yeah. And so and this is not saying good or bad. It would be Dawson saying, yes, I have plans for this. Those RPOs are going to be actual quarterback run options too. Yeah, we're going to put some option in the playbook. We're going to have a bunch of designed runs and all of this stuff. So we can, because again, the kid ran for almost 900 yards. Like, he's a runner. And if you're not using that part of his game, you're right. He can sling it too, but you're wasting a lot of his talent too.
I think the most important thing you're right. You're absolutely right, Bish. But I think the most important thing as we move away from the offense here is what Mario has done in the transfer portal so far and the visitors that he's had here, aside from the wide receivers. He had he had a transfer portal kicker here this weekend. I think he was still here today, and I think that's the exciting part. And so I think we need to watch that as it progresses, because I think that could be. I'm being a little sarcastic here, by the way, but they did bring in a kicker, Buchanan, because last name was Buchanan, I think, from Louisiana Tech. Since Borregales is obviously going to go this year, more than likely, we'll have to be looking for a new kicker, whether it's Abram Murray or whether it's this new kid. But I think the biggest news.
So what am I missing on the kicker? Because I looked at his numbers and they're freaking awful.
Yeah, they're not great.
Yeah, you said that.
he made 65% of his field goals last year and missed like a lot of them under 30 yards. And I'm like,
I'm not sure what the hell.
That was 2 years ago because he was here last year, so he was.
No, I'm not talking about Abram Murray. I'm talking about the kid we're looking at from Louisiana Tech.
Abram Murray is good. He's a good.
That's what I thought. I was fine bro with Abram Murray. Then I saw this guy. I'm like, and I looked at his numbers. Like, he must be. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm missing something here.
Well, even Borregales told me that Abram Murray is the real.
Yeah, deal. I don't know what's going on with that. It's kind of bizarre that, because again, he wasn't making kicks at Louisiana.
Typical Mario shit, though, right? You never know what the hell he's thinking.
Maybe he can kick a lot of touchbacks. I don't know.
Maybe that's
got a kickoff specialist.
Maybe that's what it is.
Which, by the way, this is the underside of NIL era, right? He's a starting kicker at Louisiana Tech. You want to get a degree from Miami kickoff here, and I'll give you $25,000 to come sit here and kick off.
I'm all over.
That's chump change for us. He's not going to get that anywhere. Yeah, I mean, there's like this whole underbelly of, you're a big program, especially one like ours, which is good academically, and the degree is worth something.
As long as you kick in the end zone.
Yeah, if you come here, kick touchbacks, we'll give you a little bit of money, and you'll get a degree from the University of Miami. And that might work better than let me go make 60% of my field goals at Louisiana Tech one more year and then never kick again, right?
Hey, Louisiana Tech, you're knocking Terry Bradshaw's degree? Come on now.
I'm not knocking. I honestly don't know anything about the academic institution. I do know Miami is a good degree to have on the wall behind you. So
I see it.
So is UNLV, right, Blue? So is UNLV.
Not like Miami, but that's okay.
Oh man! So all right, so let's talk. Let's kind of turn it over to the defensive side of the football. Right now, I think the two biggest names that Miami is really in the mix for. One of the guys, actually, both of them are on campus right now. First one is DJ. We'll talk about him first because he's the guy from your neck of the woods, linebacker out of Nebraska, Mekhi Gabayer. However you want to say it.
Yep.
Gabayer is the big-time linebacker prospect who has entered the transfer portal. Looks like Miami is the front runner for him. He is visiting right now. So is Keyshawn Silver. But we'll talk about Mekhi Gabayer first. DJ, I want to kind of get your take on what you saw out of him this year and just as a prospect overall, how he's going to fit here. Well, I think he'll fit fine because we suck anyways at defense. So have would be great, but.
He's a type of player that can really, he's a kind of a hybrid player. He can rush the passer, he can make tackles, but he's also not afraid to fill the gaps on a type of run play. One of the things he did really well at Nebraska was, pursuit of the football, like kind of not let running backs get past the second level, pursue the football. And at times he would also come off the edge and get into the backfield quickly. So what Miami would be getting here is sort of, I don't want to say an all-around utility type of player, but a very good physical specimen and a very good athlete. He started his career at Nebraska very slowly, but he's exploded over the past couple seasons, and he really fit well into their defense. And Nebraska's defense was built to rush the passer and in coverage, and I think Miami's is a bit similar in that regard, although I this year at times we weren't sure what we were seeing, but I think Gabayer would be a good fit for Miami just due to his versatility and his athleticism. And he really came on strong this past season, and I think he would be a really good fit for what the Hurricanes are trying to do.
Blue, what's your take? Have you been able to
I actually saw him in the Freedom Bowl or the Freedom Trophy last year against Wisconsin.
Yep.
kid can play. I mean, he's a hard-nosed player. He drops. I've seen him even. I think he came up with a pick in that game. Good-looking kid. A guy who, a lot of people, look at him and figure that, this is a guy that can come in and make a huge impression, especially a team like Miami that really needs depth and actually, frontline players, because, there's no dancing around the fact that the linebacking core didn't have a great season. And, I mean,
look at Blue being generous in the holiday season. Didn't ever.
They sucked. No. But
well, it's not generous when you then go bluntly state it.
I'm not being generous, but I agree with what DJ said. Here's a guy who's kind of versatile. You can move him around. He's knowledgeable. He reads extremely well. He's physical. I'd like to see, a player like that come in. And also, Jazz, you were mentioning another player who I think is going to, be he has an opportunity to be here too as well.
I mean, Jesus Christ, I think that Gobert just signed tonight
with Missouri.
Yep.
With Missouri. Jesus Louise, man.
I mean,
he was supposed to sign. That's why I was cautious, but I didn't.
Well, can you blame him? You could not do absolutely shit and still be ranked. So why wouldn't you go there?
He was still. I mean, he was basically in Miami.
She was on campus like today.
No, but I know. But
it
came down to those two, and I think that Missouri just slid up to the house with the Brinks.
Missouri also has some very interesting NIL laws where, like, the cash is flowing at Missouri. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the law is. I'm going to have to look it up. But I believe they can be very lenient with their money.
Jeez Louise, man. I swear to you, I was just looking at him posting that he was at the Ritz, and now all of a sudden, boom.
No,
what was that? Keyshawn Silver, has that guy signed with anybody yet?
No,
he
right
now.
We're talking about him.
He's pretty damn good.
He's pretty damn good, and he was at Miami. I don't know where the hell he is now, or if he'll ever be back in Miami again. But chances are he is a kid that Miami is looking at hard. He is in play for the Hurricanes at a position that we desperately need, at the defensive tackle position, with guys like Simeon Barrow gone now, guys like Mesidor gone now. Well, technically Mesidor could come back. I don't think Miami is going to want him back.
I think it's.
But I will put you on alert that USC leads pretty heavily for Keyshawn.
Silver hasn't signed anywhere yet, but USC is in the driver's seat.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
you say Miami wouldn't want Mesidor back. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah,
sure. They take him in a heartbeat. He's a great guy in the locker room too.
No, not because of his play. It's NIL related, right? He's going to want too much money to come back. So,
okay,
which is something that
could go to West Virginia.
There you go.
He's now got coverage skills, trying to cover receivers in the flat. So he's got.
Oh yeah,
you got to pay for the skills, man. How many players can play defensive tackle and cover in the flat? I mean, you got to pay for that.
Nobody very well. So
he can. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he can put it in his resume.
I need to see the portal for defensive coordinators. I haven't forgotten.
Oh,
You're bad luck with these guys you're throwing out here.
I'm not going to throw anybody else out. You guys want to talk about it? Go ahead. I'm just going to listen. I'm done with this shit.
Again, the portal
acted very quickly on Gobert.
The portal is young. I think. I'll say this, right? We can talk. Look, we didn't hit on everyone in the portal or anything, right? We've missed on some kids. We've hit on some others. Mario does know how to build a roster. We were pretty well stocked front to back on both sides of the ball this year, mixing portal kids, existing players. He got creative with some of it. Like, his roster management is like the opposite of his time management. And so I feel like he'll figure some of this out. If you think they're sitting there just like finding stuff out on Twitter and like, oh my God, I can't believe this or that. That's not how
they at any point have 5-10 guys on campus physically.
Yeah, no, they'll plug guys in. They also know what we have, right? Like, they see the kids that we have on campus practice. They probably, we want everyone to come in the portal and be a ready-made starter, and we don't want anyone to leave, and that's not how any of this works. And so it's going to be a mix of guys coming in and guys that are on this roster that haven't played a lot stepping up.
Right.
Isaiah Horton hadn't done squat before the season. But he stepped up and was one of our better receivers. Now he's leaving, everyone's upset. But we have other people, like when JoJo Trader is starting next year, we're going to be happy with JoJo Trader. And it's just, that's the way it works, right? And I think, and honestly, it's going to come down to what it does for every single team now. A play here or there in a couple of games. We're in the conversation for that, and that's all you're really trying to do is stay in that conversation.
Is Ralph talking about Fred Perry, the kid from Jacksonville State? Is that who he's talking about? I'm not real sure.
Could be.
Yeah, that kid, he's from Georgia. He's a pretty good football player. I actually thought coming out of high school that he would, end up like at Georgia Tech or something. But no, he would shoot. The guy's like 5'10", 200. He runs well. He hits like a truck. He hits like a linebacker. The only thing is I don't think he's a great cover guy, but you know what? But I shouldn't say that's not important. At Miami, anybody can cover somebody that's is gonna be out there. But he's a guy that I definitely would think about. If he's talking about Fred Perry, I think.
I mean, I just, not that this obviously isn't going to happen before the bowl game, and the way Mario works, it could take months. But like, I can't imagine running the defensive staff back after what we just saw. Like, you can't look at that and be like, let me just leave everything intact.
For next season, absolutely not.
So so when we started talking about player fit, I mean, I'd be pretty surprised if we're running the same schemes.
It's funny how crazy and how fast things can change, right? Or turn around. We were talking a lot before the season, in the middle of the season, even towards the end of the season to a certain degree. And this is not, I'm not trying to knock him, but I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a take on what you guys think about now, looking at it, after the season's over. But the development of the linebacker position, right? You had some young guys like Bobby Pruitt, Popo, Darius Hayes, some of these guys in Washington, Bobby Washington. Some of these guys that got some playing time late in the season. Even Malik Bryant, right? He was an edge guy, but still runs with the linebackers a little bit. You kind of got to see some of those young guys play a little bit. Some of them play better than others. Bobby Pruitt is probably the biggest standout out of all of them, if you ask me. But you also saw a bit of a breakdown in the recruiting for linebacker, right? Where you had guys like Melendez and you had Gavin Nix and you had, some of these really big names, and then all of a sudden kind of jump ship. Is that more of a Derek Nicholson problem, or is that more of you see the NIL kind of doing its thing again, rearing its ugly head and taking some of these guys away from him because he's a good, but we were talking about how great of a recruiter and how great of a developer he is. Look at his linebackers, look how good the linebackers are playing. They regress a little bit, but some of the young guys played hard. So is it a mixed grade right now that you're giving Nicholson, or are you saying he's still a damn good coach, damn good developer? I just think that the NIL kind of, screwed him over in this recruiting cycle, and he's still got a shot, right? He's still working on.
You got a whole bunch of guys. Listen. I have a tendency to think you got enough young guys in the linebacking core. I think what you're going to do is you're going to have to rely on the portal to bring one or two guys in. Yeah. So then those guys can ease themselves in. You don't want to throw them right into the mix, but they'll ease into the mix. So the same thing with Josiah Trader and Nye Carr. I mean, if they had been thrown right into the, starting circle last year, maybe not, but they were eased into it. They got a few games where they got into, and this year, if you pick up a portal guy or two, and then you still have some pretty good returning kids, I think they're going to be effective. Yeah. You see, I think Nicholson is everything that you said he was, Jazz. He's a really good coach. He recruits well. It wasn't his fault that Mauanoa underperformed greatly, because you were looking for him to be the guy, the catalyst, an All-American type of guy, and it never worked out in that way. So who knows? I'm just trying to, be optimistic about what could happen. But I think that you have an opportunity, and I agree with Vish. I mean, Mario is kind of a weird recruiter in this sense, but he usually comes out looking pretty good. So I think he has a timetable in his mind that he ain't sharing. So
right.
We as fans and people who cover them like to jump 10 pegs ahead, obviously, but I think he's more meticulous in who he brings in. And listen, I'm sure that's what they've been doing every single day since the regular season started, getting ready for this bowl game, is to evaluate what they have. And, let's be honest type of guy, just because you like, player X doesn't mean, he's going to be the fit that we're looking for. So I think that's, and they've had a time to watch these guys. Remember, they practice, that's the whole thing. They practice. And he's one of those coaches that gets a lot of evaluation out of practice. So, yeah, we'll see, whatever it is. But that's it. When is the bowl game? Is it not for next week? Is it? Or what?
It's the 28th. So we'll
next week we'll break it down, or
we'll break it down next week. The one thing I would say is, I don't know who's picking what linebackers are out there, but at some point you need to reduce the number of snaps that Kiko was playing, because it was just not. He was literally being targeted by the defense on every play, and not if that's the defensive coordinator or the lineman. Like, someone needed to make an adjustment. It was completely unacceptable to be sitting there in the Syracuse game watching him chasing shadows for the 12th game in a row. Like, whoa, couldn't see this coming.
Yeah.
And so I do think, like, that part of it, it's not. I don't know. I can't imagine not making changes. And I felt like I was yelling into the wind a little bit 2 years ago when everyone was trying to blame TBD for all the struggles. Like, our defense was very inconsistent. Like, they lost that Louisville game 2 years ago. They gave up 41 points to North Carolina. TBD threw a bunch of picks too, and everyone's like,
"Hey, listen, he's back in the portal. You running back or what?"
Oh my God, no way!
Don't
even joke about that.
I said that last week. He's going to UConn.
But then also, that A&M game, TBD actually won that for us. The defense was pretty terrible in that game, and so I think by the end of the year we had all just collectively decided Tyler Van Dyke is the problem with this program. And then obviously you go from anyone to Cam Ward. It's like, oh, he definitely was the defense wasn't great 2 years ago either.
No,
it's very up and down. Like, I think Guidry's had his 2 years. I said this emotionally after the Syracuse game. I wouldn't let him back on the plane. I am more calmly and rationally analyzing it, but I don't see how you can bring him back. And I think that'll definitively change not just who's here, who's playing, but how they're playing, which goes into a lot of when Blue starts talking about, maybe this guy's not great in coverage. Well, we have a different scheme. Maybe it matters. Maybe it doesn't. Right. So if we're running the same defense back, I can't be optimistic about the results. I've seen 2 years of it, and the best of times it was inconsistent. And
I think what I want to bet on for next season is who's going to take DJ Uiagalelei in the draft. If someone drafts him, anyways, I'm done. I don't want to talk about that. There you go. Now you just pushed it back another additional week, my friend.
You've been warned. You've been warned. By the way, if you don't have a D1 baseball subscription, they did a whole feature on our program.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Oh, well.
It's good stuff.
They got some good show and tell tonight. Some pretty good stuff.
Oh, here we go.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we'll get to it.
Wait, do you have something else?
No. It's just a close out. You're good. Yeah.
We do show and tell, then close out.
Show and tell with Bluestein. I just have to.
Got a couple of good things. They got the football cards.
Oh, those.
I love those.
Yeah, those were awesome.
Dennis Erickson there, and then on the other side, got some more.
Nice.
Wow.
Recognize any of them?
Is that Kevin Patrick up there, 91?
Yeah. 86.
86 is Kevin Patrick.
86, I'm like 91. I'm looking at 91, I'm saying 86. Who else do we got up there?
You got
not recognizing all the
Kevin
names.
Patrick, Darren Crine, Marcus Carey on the front, and then you got Kenny Lopez, Dexter Siegler, Paul White, and Robert Bass.
Ah.
And on the front side, you got the All-American Frank Costa, Chris T. Jones, Donnell Bennett, Rudy Barber, Ryan Collins, and who else?
And Frank Costa was a pretty good quarterback, guys.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. See,
pretty good quarterback.
now I've got a little bonus. I mean, I know it's not the hoop show, but
that's all right.
I came across something today from the year 1969 when the Hurricanes visited Pauley Pavilion.
Oh, look at that.
Sweet. Look at that.
That's awesome.
Then the UCLA Bruins,
they sucked.
Here's the Hurricanes back then.
Whoa.
UCLA sucked back then, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They beat Miami by 96. That's why they suck so much.
So they weren't very good, Nothing.
They beat us by 96. Is that what you said?
No, it was like 112 to 10 or something.
Where did Blue go? We lost them.
Go ahead, look it up, DJ.
Oh wait, why is Blue not showing up? Hold on, because I was going back to full. There it is.
There you
go. What?
No, you disappeared. You didn't even see it. You're looking down. You disappeared somehow. I was like, wait, but he's talking. What happened?
Well, they had that year Sidney Wicks, who was a beast, and Curtis Rowe, who was even a bigger beast. Yeah, Henry Bibby. Yeah, this was a good UCLA team right there.
I would say.
1969, Blue?
Yeah, look it up. 1969.
What a year, man. What a year.
127 to 69 Bruins.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't pretty.
I mean,
I know.
If you've been following the team lately, not far off that, but good God.
For years I tried to make it to see a UCLA game to get John Wooden's autograph. I guess that ship has passed, but it's still I got some pretty. I was looking through a 1970 Miami versus William and Mary football game. The head coach was Lou Holtz. And his defensive coordinator was Bobby Ross.
Oh, wow.
For
sure.
There's some pretty neat things back in those days because a lot of those guys that that were, assistant coaches became head coaches. And looking at, you talk about, NC State and, Tom O'Brien, he started at Navy. I have a picture of him when he was at the Naval Academy. And, it's pretty neat to see a lot of these coaches, who, when they played and, not just the Mario Cristobal's or the Randy Shannons, but even back further, when Don James was the head out of University of Miami, went to Washington and did a great job there. And Miami's had some pretty good guys like George Myra and Fran Kersey, who kind of pegged the meter in the past. But, yeah. Larry, do you have any information why Mallory did not play? And yes, I do. In fact, I just talked to his head coach an hour before, and he got a concussion a couple weeks back, 3 weeks back, and they didn't want to take a chance, and they really didn't need him. So there you go. And he's a beast. No, hey, George, if I had the rock card, that would be, I think it was selling for like 50, 60 grand or something. I may, but I have to look for it. But it's funny when I saw how much it, yeah, you're right, Ralph. I never had that's when I actually had hair. In fact, I had a picture right here of me and Benito Santiago.
Oh wait, hold on. This needs technology. Wait.
Benito.
Oh my God! Look at this.
In my UNLV stuff, obviously.
We should have a show just dedicated to your memory.
That sounds like an off-season activity.
Here, one more technology thing. When Jamie German was in high school, number 9.
Yeah.
Wow.
Played in the Florida game. And then lastly, Anquan Bolden with Pahokee.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
What a badass he was.
And when we do a baseball show, I think that only Jazz would appreciate this, but the 1971 All-Star ballot. And this is a time when You had guys like Oliver and Cepeda and Mays and wow, Jesus. Hank Aaron. How about an outfield of Hank Aaron and Lou Brock and Clemente and Mays? Holy Christmas. And Pete Rose was an outfielder at that time. So there you go. I tantalized. I often thought that I should do like a trivia show. Of old time stuff. People would watch because there's a lot of good stuff there. And
we got a couple of. We can go through your stuff. We can do a trivia show. We got kill some.
But now you're ours, and we can't let anybody else take that. We're gonna have to.
No. Oh no. We're doing it on the show. We're doing it on the show. We got the off season coming.
We're gonna have to become agents and make sure to get your rights deals and things like that.
Yeah, we'll try to get a sponsor for it.
Little NIL action here.
All right. Well, that's it. I got to get going. We got some stuff to do here.
Make sure you check us out next week. We will be previewing the bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So that'll be interesting. God knows if we'll have a team left by that time.
We will be fine.
Or if
we got QB1, and frankly, that's all we need.
That's all we need.
That's all we need. He's the best player in the country.
If he could only play linebacker too. Anyways,
before we go, I gotta shout someone out. My friend's kid, Orson Lorenzo, won Integrity Student of the Week this week and was shouted out on the paper and stuff. So that's a big deal. Congratulations. Keep it up. Integrity matters.
Yes, it does.
That's awesome.
We'll see you guys next week. Adios.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. The 6 Rig Kane Show. The 6 Rings Kane Show. You know.